Show is a live broadcast of truth seekers and believers, empowering the evolution of consciousness. Raphael and Celeste will dive deeper than the mainstream media while answering the mind's deeper questions and transforming conversations. They will have unique guest speakers who will share knowledge, tools, and techniques to create coherence in our mind, body, and spirit.
Good morning.
Good evening from Australia. How are you today, Raphael?
I'm exceptional and getting better every day.
Every day, just that
Every
little bit.
Tiny little bit, right?
That's all it takes. It's good.
Incremental improvements. Wow. What a packed show we have today, don't we?
That's right. And I'm becoming better in actually labeling all my content because, Raphael, with every episode we do, I take responsibility for what we talk about, what we want to share. And I do it with love. I do it with passion. And so often we talk and it's not that we drift off topic because we're passionate people, but sometimes I want to train myself to get all the information out that I want to share with people, because this is what the episodes are about.
You know what? Yes and no. I'm going to tell you, sometimes we just need to let that passion out. So we may touch upon a topic and then we need to discuss it further. So therefore, we don't necessarily hit every single topic, because then our show would be 10 hours long, wouldn't it?
Well, we could have it like that.
We'll have little lunch breaks.
That's right. Well, today, the last few days.
I'm hearing a lot of sound, like shh.
Oh, yeah, that's my paperwork. Thank you for letting me know.
Hold on to your paper.
Hold on to the paperwork. So, doing the research for the last few days, Raphael, on environment, saving the planet, what to eat. And I know we're going to be talking about the mushrooms at the end of the show.
Right.
But some of the information was heartbreaking. It was to the point where I'm like, this is so serious, Raphael. I truly believe that some of us still separate themselves from the issue of environment. Well, that's the planet that we have to save. It's not the planet, it's us.
Our planet.
But we are the planet, we are organisms growing out of the planet. And so I truly want to inspire maybe people today with this episode in changing your thinking pattern a little bit and going, it's not separate, it's not external. This is the planet. We are the planet. So it's about healing us, not healing the planet. And it's healing us as humans in our energy, in our thinking pattern, in our habits, in our daily use of products, of food. And and that's what we're talking about today. And I've actually just come back from a freezing cold Melbourne.
Is your paper really next to your microphone? Because I hear you ruffling.
Okay. I just come back from
You're so excited, I can tell.
No, because it's so important, Raphael.
Without a doubt. It's always, I love your passion. There is no doubt that you bring passion to the show. And that's why I'm so happy that you and I are doing this, right? When we think about, and I was talking to somebody on one of my shows recently about when I was a little kid, I always imagined that I was the only one that mattered. So think of it that way, right? As a little kid, you see everyone else as like, you don't matter. I matter. I'm everything. And as I got older, I realized that, wait a minute, I live in a world. It's my world. And wait a minute, that person over there, they live in a world. It's their world. So we all live in our own little bubble, our own little worlds. But when we come together, we live in a world together, right? So even though we all have our own little idiosyncrasies, we have our own thoughts, our own ideas, Those are
time
our
zone.
world, right? That's us. That's what makes you unique, right? You live in your world. I live in my world, but we share this world together. So what we share, we have to take care of,
Yeah.
because if we don't, we both suffer.
Yeah. And there will be no us anymore. Very often we talk about, especially on our show, we talk
Mm,
about the human mind, thinking patterns, psychology, and we talk about the next generation. But we need a planet for that next generation.
we do.
So, we talk a lot about the future and how people are going to, mental health, how people are going to be. And I'm like, yeah, but we also need the planet
We do.
for that next generation to live on. Talking about coming together, I just
Mm,
came back from Melbourne. Now, for anyone that lives in Australia, they know Melbourne is always cold, always raining. I swear. I know all the Melbourne people are now going to write comments and going, no, 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 that's not true. It is true. Trust me. To all the tourists that want to come to Australia, if you Melbourne is not the place for beautiful Australian sunshine, just to clarify
mm,
that. So we were in Melbourne when we visited the Agriculture and Horticultural Awards 2022.
mm.
The winner was Sky Farms, who have just transformed 2,000 square meters of a of a university into a rooftop urban farming.
Wow.
And it is incredible. So visitors are able to tour the farm, obviously, be part of it, visit the orchids, sample honeys from the rooftop hives,
Mm,
dine in the sustainable organic cafe place, but most of all, there's a playground and also educational programs. So
wow.
I witnessed this beautiful award being given to the Sky Farms in Melbourne. So congratulations to Melbourne.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
a really important start for rooftop and urban farming, which I'll get into in a second. And especially when you read about the main statistics of 1.3 billion tons
Mm,
per day of food
right.
gets thrown away. And I really want to emphasize this again. 1.3 billion tons
Of
per
food.
day of food gets thrown away.
Mm,
That is heartbreaking. I mean, to put it
absolutely.
simply, there's enough food on the planet for everyone. And I just think that is so heartbreaking. So this is a subject I really want to emphasize. Oh,
Sorry
yeah,
about
my own voice.
that. Go ahead.
Very strange. But on a positive note, right? So witnessing this award, I find it fascinating when people get together that have that same interest of horticulture and agriculture. So I want to mention a few things all around the world when it comes to vertical gardens and also rooftop farming. So inspiring our audience,
Mm,
if you travel next, these are incredible places to go to. Would you like to hear them?
absolutely. Plus, I love to travel.
Yes, that's right. Well, I thought also I'll bring in the excitement for travel now that we're all allowed to travel again.
That's right.
So, one of the most famous places, Raphael, is Tree House in Singapore, with over 2.5 thousand square meters
Wow.
of, yeah, that's huge, right? And because of the size, it actually reduces the carbon footprint by 30%.
That's huge.
And that's huge. And this is just one example of planting vertical gardens,
Mm,
not just the rooftop farming. We're talking just about beautiful plants that are giving and producing oxygen. So by reducing the carbon footprint. The second one is going over to Sydney here in Australia to Central Park. And yes, we do also have a Central Park in Sydney, not just in
not
yeah,
just New York.
that's right. No, no, there is a Central Park in Sydney. Even I questioned myself for a second and thought I'd double check my research, but there is.
Mm,
With over 120,000 native Australian plants. So
mm,
that in itself, again, is just an incredible architecture. flying over to Madrid, 1800s old art gallery, which has now been transformed to 600 square meters with over 15,000 plants, again,
Wow.
reducing the carbon footprint. So these are architectures that are completely self-sustainable, but reducing the carbon footprint around. And then also going to New York. Now, I'm looking forward to obviously going there myself. 2.6 kilometer long rail. So you had an old train rail close to the Hudson River where you've now planted trees and plants. So
Yeah.
this is a 2.6 kilometer. Have you been there, Raphael?
I have not. I need to
Oh,
go.
you need to go. It's close to Hudson River.
Mm.
2.6. So instead of just having this closed train rail, they've created this beautiful this beautiful walkway to again breathe in sort of that beautiful nature being in.
When you come to New York, that's one of the places we'll go to.
Yes, please, we'll do that. We'll do that. Another few I wanted to mention, because I find the architecture very interesting and the people behind it, because we obviously witnessing in Melbourne how Sky Farms just got all these awards. And it is, I truly hope with all the countries that we are going to start building rooftop farming. So this is all about understanding basically more what agriculture, what it means is to basically create urban agriculture which is built on rooftops. So that's sort of the description that we're going into for those who want to do more research. So the largest rooftop farm that feeds Paris. Now, Paris has been famous for centuries and being famous for their refined cuisine, so for all the foods and the restaurants. But like most cities, the food needs to come into the cities. They have now redesigned the Expo Pavilion number 6 with 14,000 square meters of an urban rooftop farm, supplying most of the main restaurants, from everything from lettuce to tomatoes, strawberries, beets, all the organic fruits and vegetables and spices. So even going to places like Paris, they are starting to use the rooftops for organic farming. So this is in the above the expo. So we're using art galleries, we're using spaces of universities, we're using spaces of old car parks. This is the way to go, Raphael. In Montreal is just about starting the sustainable project, having over 19 shopping centers being rebuilt with the organic farming, using that farming then in their shopping centers. So congratulations to Lufa Farms, that's Lufa, Lufa Farms. They are now rebuilding 19 shopping centers, and they are actually sort of predicting to say that by the time they're finished with these 19 shopping centers, it could actually feed Montreal. But that's the food for that whole area. So again, fascinating stories. This is happening all around the world, and we should be supporting it. We should be educating more about it. And that's why we're talking about it today.
Yeah. One of the things when we think about what we can do, even in our own homes, they have these things. Even if you live in a high rise and you don't have a place that you can go and plant, you can do it at home as well. You can eat organically at home. You have all these little things that you can build at home, and like a pod, if you will, and you can start to plant your own vegetables, your own herbs, so that you can eat healthier, right? And then and we talked about it, I believe, last time, even in some of the more commercial spaces, if there is no farms near you, there are farmers who come in and they arrange a farmer's market.
Yeah.
so you can still eat organically.
Yeah.
Right? You just got to
And
look
meet
it
beautiful people too. Walking around organic farms, you actually around other people who are like-minded and also
out.
give that same energy out. So it's a beautiful place to, I wouldn't say the word network, but to expand your tribe and
Mm,
meet, be with other beautiful people as well,
yeah,
going to these markets.
yeah. It also depends on the neighborhood you're in, right? So sometimes not everybody's as nice as we'd like. I've been to some food markets, and the only nice people I've encountered were the people behind selling the product. And then when you look around, some of the other people were like, so like, well, I am talking New York. So so some of the other people are not as friendly as you would want. So if you go to more outside of New York, by the way, most anywhere outside of New York, and I'm not saying New York is not friendly, they're just for some reason have become cautious,
Mm,
right? Because so many people are looking to take advantage
mm.
of one another. And that's a shame.
Of
We should
course.
live where we're here to help one another,
Yep.
right? So,
Well, it's in our human nature usually to be like that.
mm,
It is, every child that is born to be a good person. Yeah.
yes,
Every child is born with a good heart, and it takes the environment. And if some people, take advantage, it's going back to really the subject to when I just said before, we're not separate, we are one. And so
mm,
anything from self-love and self-care goes back to caring for the environment around you.
right,
So if some people stealing, then yeah, unfortunately there's that point where I think a lot more inspiration of yeah, community based is very necessary. And that's the same subject with going into saving the planet. It's saving the energy and saving the human race and becoming closer again together in a good way.
yeah, yeah. You know,
Mm.
when we think about saving our planet, it's the little things, right? It's oh my gosh, I get so passionate about it when I
Mm.
see someone litter.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Mm-hmm.
I want to go over there and say, pick that up.
Mm-hmm.
And but then I would be out in the streets all day long.
Yeah, and then you would be the mad person that's running around telling other people what to do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And with Taoism, we often are taught, you're not there to interfere with other
Mm,
people, you're just there to inspire.
right.
That's really hard
It
sometimes.
is.
I
It
do
is.
try my best with Taoism,
Mhm.
but letting just everything unfold, I'm like, but no, there needs to be the rebel. That goes, don't litter. But this is where Singapore is so famous, right? And I started with that project here in Singapore, and they are very, very strict. It's actually against the law to litter, which I find great. So
Yeah,
that should be a great
incredible.
inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah. But not only that, I mean, God, everything's more beautiful,
Mm.
right?
With less
When
cigarette butt on the floor. Yeah, I agree.
and anybody who smokes, maybe not in Singapore, but in other places, and they're like, "Oh, I want to live in a clean environment." Meanwhile, they finish smoking and then they flick it. It drives me nuts. I'm like, "Wait a minute, you just littered." Meanwhile,
Yeah.
you're talking about you want to live in a clean environment,
Mm.
right?
But
Not only are you
Rafael, we
polluting
all
it,
can't be perfect. We all can't be perfect because even like I was thinking
nobody's
today,
perfect.
reading so much about carbon footprint, and I drive a really big car,
Mm,
and I won't say what kind of car because otherwise that company will go like, did you just call our big car like bad for the environment? So,
right.
but there's certain things, definitely not flicking your cigarette butts. That is
Mm,
not acceptable, to make that
no,
clear. But
Correct.
still, we sort of have to live our lives sometimes. Like, it's impossible not to buy any plastic, you
Mm,
know? So you can do your best, though.
right.
And we always have to say thank you to those who turn off all their lights, but maybe, they waste a little bit too much water.
Mm,
Or we still have to say thank you to those who do organic farming, but then maybe still, do something else. So, but if every person just
a little
does
bit.
their best, just a little bit,
Just a
but
little
the
bit.
education has to come more. That we need to really start educating people and what we can do and how every single day. And as I said before, we have to stop thinking separate. It's not the planet. We are the planet. It's us. It's healing us.
Yeah. You know, you
Mm,
talked about education, and there's two places that education is important. First one, it starts at home,
mm.
and the second one should be in our
Should be.
schools,
Mm,
right? So the two places where education is so important, and sometimes it falls short.
mm,
It falls short because if the parents are not in touch with the world, right? When they litter, or they buy plastic, tons of stuff, and they don't recycle, all these different things. And then the children are learning to live like their parents, because what they see, they learn, and then they do. And
and
then
then
if they go to school, it's the same thing. At school, if they're seeing everyone else do it, they think it's okay,
mm,
right?
mm, mm,
Even if the school is teaching the right thing, which I don't always think they are, right? They want to teach you reading, math, you know, arithmetic, all these different things, but they're forgetting to teach that
mm.
which is going to sustain us
Well, their future,
long. Yeah.
their I would love to do an episode actually. We should bring some teachers on and
Mhm.
celebrate them though, because I think it's important to, because I've actually done interviews with teachers. And to make this very clear, and I'm saying this out to the world,
Mm.
I would not last 10 minutes. And I think I've said this but before. If you put me into a classroom with 30 to 40 kids, I would like curl up in fetus position and probably rock myself. Yeah. So it takes a strong. No, but Raphael, let's have a real moment here. It takes a strong person to be able to handle so many kids, but we have too
Mm.
many kids in the classroom.
That's
So
true.
even if the teacher is doing their best in talking about stop wasting plastic, the kid right in the background is probably, flicking blue tack up into the ceiling and having more fun with that really than,
Yeah.
so
But
small.
when we talk about teachers, I agree with you that we do have to celebrate them. And for any teacher listening, or if you get this on the replay, you're not paid enough.
Oh,
You're not paid enough, because our future is in your hands.
yeah.
And one of the things I said to someone is, it's not about money. A lot of people mistaken that our lives should revolve around money. Our lives should revolve around change.
Mm,
Let's change what we don't like. Let's change what we don't like about us. Let's change what we don't like about the world. But we have to start with us. And
mm,
then we have to start with our children. So that's why I believe that teachers make the biggest impact,
mm,
and parents make the
mm,
biggest impact. And we have to make sure that they're supported, both the teachers and the parents, because sometimes, parents are overwhelmed. Yes, you talked about a teacher being overwhelmed, and you would curl up into a little cue ball. But here's the thing, right? There are a lot of people who need to understand that a teacher needs the support. And there should not be one teacher to 30 kids. There should be one main teacher and maybe two extra teachers to help out. It shouldn't be that overwhelmed feeling for a teacher where all of a sudden they're trying to teach a lesson and they have to worry about Johnny or Mary or Sue or Dorothy
Mm,
all doing different things when they're not really focused. Like you said, they're looking up at the ceiling, they're not focused. And instead of having 30 kids to a classroom, maybe there should be 12,
mm,
you know?
mm,
So,
mm.
but
And how
that's,
it used to be as
that
well.
would be a great place to be, right?
Yeah. And really, should just get them straight up to the rooftop of that school
And teach
and
them how to
plant
plant.
the vegetables and plant the fruits. And I'd love to get into that subject. I know we've got 3 minutes before our news flash, but talking about sort of that educational space, the woman behind the largest organic rooftop in Asia, in Bangkok. Now, Bangkok is famous for a lot of other things, but she's
Mm,
changing that right now. She's changing that new, what people know about Bangkok. Currently, 20,000 square meters of unused space on all the universities.
mm,
Now, I don't speak Japanese, so I really Asian. So I don't want to say the name wrong. So we'll write it into one of the banners. But her name is Vora Ak Hom, and this is the lady. If you just type in the woman behind the largest organic rooftop farms in Asia, and she is really onto this. And I
mm,
honor and respect people like that. She's just literally saying all the universities should have rooftop urban farming because it goes into one. It's the education for the next generation. They got to eat, they got to drink while they're learning. Yeah. So I think that's a beautiful combination. So I'm really, really, really big supporter of that. And she's also going a little bit into that direction of also explaining that we are throwing away too much food. And
mm.
just before, when I was saying that we have 1.3 billion tons of food every day. I'm sorry, I had to mention it a third time. And
I
I
know.
and I'm sorry, there's one more statistic that I read today. 108 billion pounds of food is also
Mm,
wasted in America per year, which makes up to $408 billion
oof.
worth of food. 408 billion worth of food is being thrown away. So
That is,
you know what? To all the universities and schools, let's really start educating what to eat, how to eat. Let's use our rooftop farming. And that is a beautiful
you
subject.
talked about not understanding Japanese or don't want to say it wrong, but on November 22nd, we're going to have a Japanese expert.
We should ask him how
Um,
to pronounce her name. We should, just
he's
so
going to
I
come
can
on
correct
with more than just that. But so Nicholas Kemp will be here with us on November 22nd, and I'm excited about that. I teach Chinese martial arts, and there is a difference in between the Chinese culture and the
myself.
Japanese culture. So he's going to definitely educate us both, I believe,
Brilliant.
on Japanese culture, and he is an expert when we think about becoming an expert,
Mm,
right? So you did a lot of research, and it's very clear as to the topic we're talking about today. But what if you're not an expert? How do you become one?
mm,
Then you go to the experts and you ask to be taught. You ask questions.
mm,
And so
mm,
we will be asking a million questions come November 22nd because we want to know more about
mm,
the Japanese culture and the way they behave and the way they treat the planet.
mhm,
Because if you think about the aspects of technology, right? There's two different points of view when it comes to Japanese cultures, because think about the negative imprint that they are making in the world, yet there's a positive imprint that they're making as well. So
Mm.
it'll be
And
interesting
even
conversation.
before when I said, yes, there's some people that still maybe flick the cigarette, but maybe that person is still switching off every single light every day and maybe not throwing away their food. We need to be acceptant that all of us are individual people. But if everyone does something, we can't be perfect. We can never be perfect.
Well, we can try. There is no such thing as perfection. By the way, you know what time it is?
Yes.
It's the Seer News time. So Celeste, tell us something that's going on in the world.
Well, today is the 1st of November. Here we've already had the 1st of November. You're just entering the 1st of
That's
November.
correct.
But perfect to this topic, we have a new Australian law starting from today. Perfect. I am so proud of Australia. I'm going to read this one out. Single-use plastic items are now banned. Here is what's changing. Single-use items like straws, cups, cotton buds, etc., plastic steamed cotton buds, cups, personal products, microbeads is now outlawed in Australia
That's
since
huge.
today. I am so proud. Now, they say that over 7 billion individual plastic items are going to now be sort of excluded and not being used, and will protect the environment, but also the wildlife. So we have obviously a lot of problems with the oceans, and I'll get to that in the sad facts about how much is in the ocean.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
from today onwards in Australia, and if you do not, for those that not comply, face a fine of up to $50,000.
Wow.
$55,000 Australian dollars, which is around 53,000 Australian dollars. So this can go down to like the hotels having the little plastic shampoo bottles. So no more single-use plastic items. Now, of course, there's going to be, well, how do you define what's a single use and what's not? But Raphael, let's just celebrate today that in Australia, from the 1st of November onwards, it is banned to now have single-use plastic. And if the companies do not comply, because yes, we as individuals should not be buying it, but this is the problem. If you can buy it, some people will buy it. So we need to stop giving the opportunity to buy it. So for those companies, from today onwards, $55,000 in fine. Where the money will go to, though, that would be quite interesting. But we might have another full episode on that one.
Well, here's a quick thought on where does the money go. Unfortunately, there's too much corruption in the world. I think that's where it goes. It goes into the corruption fund.
For this episode, I'm going to keep my mouth. You know me, I'm a very unfiltered, outspoken personality, which is the worst to be on a live broadcast. I have been warned literally by my own parents, even though I'm in my 40s. They're like, it's not a good idea to have live broadcasts. I'm like, Mom, you know what? I think what's the worst that could happen?
We speak. That's the worst.
Surely there's freedom, of speech. I was thinking of finding out more about what you're allowed to say in your personal opinions, right? So if
It's
you
your
start,
personal opinion. I think you can say anything you want.
that's fine.
Right.
I would love to, we've been talking about urban farming and all this amazing new culture of architecture and inspiration, but there are also foods that will actually save the planet. So I just wanted to list a few of those foods. And I don't want to go into too much on this episode, but we do know that obviously the big farming of cattle and
Hmm.
that that is very environmental damaging. But I just want to talk about the positive things, which is some beautiful fruits and vegetables and wine. Um,
Yeah.
so because we always want
One of the things that I want to bring up, because we're still at the news hour, if you will, is that there's something I don't like that happens, and it's happening here on November 6th.
to, okay.
We're changing the clocks. Don't like it.
I
I
thought we
wish,
spin around the sun. Why? I don't
right?
understand.
So why do we got to change the clocks all the time? It just throws everything off whack. It gets crazy. It's like fall forward, or spring forward, fall back. What is it? And it's going to happen on November 6th here for me in New York. And so for me, I'm awake. I'm alive. It doesn't matter. Let's just stop playing with the clock, right? And I know that there's some places that don't change the clock. They're on no matter what, right? And we live no matter what. So we can get used to being on one time zone. And I think that a lot of people that I work with will wake up at a specific earlier time just to be able to do business in different countries.
Yeah,
So some companies are open 24 hours because they have different shifts for people who maybe, they say, it's 12 o'clock p.m. for us, but it's 8 a.m. somewhere else. So
yeah.
then, therefore, they're open 24 hours. But it, when we think that way, are we open 24 hours, or can we just adjust to what we're doing? And I know that the markets have to be crazy, right? When we're thinking of money. So money drives us, doesn't it?
There's a few things I would say to that. You know that here in Australia, it's quite normal for us because we are a very, very, very large continent,
Mm,
and we have different time zones. So all my close friends that live 2 hours from here, they're in a different time zone. So
mm.
that's for me, that's completely normal. And as you know, with the Seer show, I often either host it here in Queensland or sometimes I'm in New South Wales, and I always have to be careful at what time I'm sitting in the studio waiting for Raphael because I need to always work out where I am, yet alone what time it is in New York. So
Yeah,
I now need to remember that no matter where I am, now on the 6th of November, your time is changing too.
right, right.
Yeah.
One of the things, if anybody wants to follow us, for sure, I'm always 4:30 a.m. in New York time. So go by that, if you will, right? So you're not getting crazy. Also, you can use this if you Google 24-hour time zones,
Mm.
and you can click in wherever you are in the world, and you put New York 4:30 a.m.,
Yeah,
you'll come and find us.
you will.
Because I am very consistent, aren't I?
Yes, you are. I
Yeah,
actually have the New York on my phone, on my iPhone
there
now,
you go.
because
See
obviously
that?
you're part of my life. So,
Ah, and likewise, I have Queensland. Now I have to put on Wales on there too.
you too. You too.
Yeah.
Ah.
We're having so many different topics that we are able to talk about because there are so many things we need to cover. And we started this show. Celeste, why did we start the show? I'm going to tell everybody my thoughts on it. Then I want you to tell everybody your thoughts on why we started the Seer Show.
Only if I
Many,
can still talk about my
of course
plastic
you
eating
can. We're going to
worms.
take a minute out. So
Okay, good.
many
I'm
years
very
ago,
excited about the worms, Raphael. So,
I see you're like, I need to get focused. But here it is, right? Sometimes people need to know why we do things, right? Many moons ago, or should I say many months ago, I had Celeste on my show, and we hit it off. And then we kind of connected a little bit here and there. And then, excuse me, one day we said, "Hey, let's try something together." And you came again on my show, and we liked what we talked about. And then we say, "Hey, let's do a 3-day series." And we did it on a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday for me. And I know it was Saturday, Sunday, Monday for you.
Yeah.
And then that's when I said, we have such great chemistry together. I think we should, let's forget about my show, The Coaching Call, which I love, but I wanted to
Me too.
celebrate you, not just to have it just based on me. So I said, we need to create a show that's for both of us, not just me, right? Not just the Raphael Coaching Call show. So that's when I said, hey, why don't we come up with a name? Why don't we come up with something where it's not just
Mm.
I'm not the only one, right? And you agreed. So why did you decide that the Seer Show was a good idea?
Well, I mean, for me, I was very privileged growing up with parents who traveled a lot, and I
Mm,
had extremely different cultures around me. I mean, I barely had more than one or two friends that were from one country. I really had extremely international influence around me. So I grew up being a person being positively fascinated
mm,
about humans, about the planet, about energy. And obviously, growing up in the theatrical industry, I had music, so I had a lot of understanding of that as well, to not just see the planet, but feel the planet.
right,
And as most people have already realized, I love discussing things and talking about things. I don't have to agree with someone, but I love talking about it and then going, wow, this is how you do it in your culture. This is how we do it, you know?
right.
So, and I think for any person that wants to evolve, you're not just going to learn it in a classroom. I'm
Mm,
sorry. But you need to actually go and talk to very different people. And that's why, and yeah, we should once talk about how we got up with the name, the Seer Show, because we were talking about how we want to express ourselves. What do? Well, we seek knowledge. We want to share knowledge.
right.
And that's where we came up with the Seer Show, with the
Yeah,
name. It was really hard to find a name, by the way, because a lot of it is already taken.
yeah.
So,
But when you seek, you shall find.
yeah,
The Seer Show.
discover.
Seeking for the truth, or at least the way we see the truth. That I
Yeah, the
think that's
truth
where
is
it came from,
perception,
right?
right?
It's our perception, what we see. And then
Mm,
when we came up with that name, the Seer Show, it
mm,
was an automatic hit for both of us. We were like, that's it. That's
mm. Yeah, yeah.
so let's get
And
back on track, because I know you have a list.
I do. Well, I mean, most people know I grew up my first sort of 20 years in the environment of more Austria,
Mm,
Germany, Switzerland. So I do have that structure in me a little bit still. So for
need to have
most,
structure. We need structure, right?
I wasn't prepared to share this actually, but because I really want to get this right. I was at a florist this morning, and
Mm,
this lovely lady said to me, un um an undisciplined life is chaos, and a disciplined life is freedom.
mm,
And what she meant by that is, if you have more of a structure and a discipline, you have more the freedom because things are easier. So, and you have more space. Whereas if you're very undisciplined and that creates chaos and there's too much going on. And she's from the Netherlands, and we actually spoke about how our cultures can come across sometimes so much more structure and discipline, but we only mean it from our hearts, I swear.
but
And
here's
theater, stage management,
the
venue supervision, you got to have the discipline.
yeah,
So
but here's the thing, right? Discipline is my take on that, because if you go backstage in any, and you know this because you've been in many backstages, there is chaos, right? So discipline to me is controlled chaos.
Oh, okay.
That's
That's
how
that's that's
controlled chaos.
is that a way for Raphael to say for people that have chaos to get away with being chaotic and just follow?
No. It's just another way, because we cannot control other people, and they bring drama and different thoughts. But if we have discipline, then we can kind of control the chaos that's in our lives, because our lives, nobody's lives is normal. I don't believe it. So, how do you have someone who kind of looks like they got it together? And that's called control chaos to me. That's how someone looks like they're so in touch with what's going on. They're so debonair, and they're so put
Debonair.
together, right? And it really is, it's just controlling the chaos in our lives, right?
With the million billion thoughts we actually have every
Yeah.
minute.
Think a mother of 3 or a mother of 5. Meanwhile, she looks like she's all put together, right? And think about a lawyer who's got 30 clients, and then he's got to be, because this one is doing wants this one wants that, da, 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 da. And then all of a sudden they have to show up in court, and they have to control the chaos that's going on. So to me, discipline is controlled chaos.
We'll leave it by that.
We all have our own opinions. That's mine.
That's the beautiful thing, though, right?
Yes, that is beautiful.
I really want to talk about worms and fungus and mushrooms, please. Can we do that?
Sure.
It is because it's fascinating. Last time we spoke about looking under the microscope, right, into the wincy, tiny movements inside our body and the blood. And I find it sad, first of all, to plastic is not biodegradable. Okay, it takes up to 400 years. Let me say that again. So most plastics are not biodegradable for 400 years.
Wow.
So and it goes down to the wincy microscopic form of plastic. So, and with 8 million metric gallons per year that end up in our oceans. And right now, Raphael, as we are speaking, there's 150 million metric gallons right now floating in our oceans. And these are not just like the big plastic pieces. These are like the little tiny microscopic plastic pieces.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just nuts.
So we've got polyester, polyurethane, which is PU, that, as an example, we've got the fridges, the tires, the synthetic leather, the supermarket trolleys, all these things that we have to put into the landfills, and then we'll get into the subject of burning fossils if we have time. But these are the kind of plastics where now we have funguses as an example. So in Pakistan is one of the biggest places where they are breeding funguses that are breaking down these kinds of plastic within just 2 months. So we're going from 400 years to just 2 months, and we are reducing all of that burning fossil fuels. So that is absolutely fascinating that we have fungus, that we are working with organic fungus that are sort of creating that, turning it into a digestive nutrient. I find that so fascinating and so
fascinating. It is pretty cool.
Then we have Japan currently that is working with bacteria that produces that enzyme that breaks that down, that PTE, which is polyethylene terephthalate. I love these big words. It's just, and you're speaking
I'm
to the
gonna
whole
let you say
world.
them.
It's really not fair. So for those microbiologists, you are very welcome to leave a few comments on how to pronounce all these words. I'm just speaking from my heart, okay?
There you
So
go.
but they, for example, plastic bottles. Again, this is a really sad statistic. 1 million plastic bottles per minute is being sold worldwide.
Mm.
That means, Rafael, during this 60 minutes of
Oh
our
my gosh.
episode,
How many
6
bottles got sold?
million plastic bottles, 60 million plastic
Mm.
bottles,
Wow.
single plastic bottle have just been sold just through this episode. So
Mm.
working with funguses and bacteria and mushrooms, I think this is something we should all be supporting and sharing and educating ourselves more about it, because
Mhm.
the more you know yourself about it, the more you can actually go to these companies and support them. You can be part of them.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. You
So
said
there's
mushrooms. I just got hungry with thinking about some shiitake mushrooms. Mm.
I do. I will go into the mushrooms. I just one
Okay,
last thing. I'm
go.
so proud here in Brisbane, actually, because I was doing all this research and I'm like, oh my God, this is here in Brisbane. This is where I live.
Wow.
So it's fascinating when it's just down the road. And also the biologists are all German and Austrian. So I really had to mention this one. But here in Brisbane, they have worms that actually eat and create that enzyme to make it to a digestible nutrient. So congratulations, Brisbane, you have my full support. I probably will be knocking on your door for a new episode. Can't hold me back, it's right here down the road.
Down the road, you got to go.
That's right. So I just, with this episode, I just wanted to really inspire people that we cannot use so much plastic anymore. We cannot burn fossil anymore as much. We have to stop filling up our landfills. We have to cut down on plastic, Raphael. Our planet can't take it anymore. And the more you are personally interested in funguses and worms and mushrooms, as crazy as that sounds, trust me, it's a good thing for our planet.
Yeah, without a doubt. Thinking about, and like you said, the footprint that we are creating, and the fact that, wow, so many plastic bottles were sold during our episode. And
6
but
million.
here's the thing, then they go into our oceans too.
Yeah.
And our
Yeah.
wildlife gets disturbed by it. It's just crazy. It should not be happening. There's got to be a different way to be able to bring products to people without the plastics.
I did. I know you're awfully excited about the mushrooms, but I just saw we ran out of time. So I would love.
We have, believe it or not, 6.5 minutes.
I know that's a very short time though. But what we can do, Raphael, is I'll go into all the healthy mushrooms for a second, and then let's do an episode on psychedelic mushrooms. Why not?
I don't know about a whole episode. Maybe just we'll touch maybe like a quarter of the episode, because
Okay.
I don't want to get into all of that. And I know we can do probably 4 episodes on psychedelic mushrooms and all that. Just a quick note for me, I've been offered psychedelic mushrooms every time I used to go to nightclubs, when I used to go to nightclubs, when I used to be a bouncer, when I used to be the doorman at all these nightclubs as well. And I never did. I didn't partake. I did not want to have that psychedelic experience, if you will. I may be an anomaly when it comes to that, because I know everyone around me did, as they call them, shrooms, right? Everybody did it. And you know what sets me apart? I don't have to do what everybody else is doing.
In general life, that's true. Don't follow the the crowd of the sheep the entire time. That's a big lesson we learned the last 2 years, without going into detail, how easy it is for people just to follow the mass instead
Right.
of really, doing your own research.
Yeah.
But with the mushrooms, I did a really good YouTube actually once for those who want to learn more about it. The cordyceps, lion's mane, and also turkey tail. They are three very, 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 very healthy mushrooms. And again, we just spoke about what can we eat to improve the environment as well, and
Mhm.
also our inner health. And the reason why I'm mentioning these mushrooms again is because, and it's in that YouTube video as well, is that it gives our brain clarity. So these are one of the foods that also boost not just your the T cells and the white blood cells, which are the military, and they
Mhm.
are pro-angiogenic. So it's extremely cancer prevention or cancer healing. And again, this is, when you say the word cancer healing, we got to be very careful, okay?
Mm.
I want people to get inspired again when it comes to mental health and clarity and intuition
Right.
and being in tune with Mother Nature, eating foods that are supporting the environment. These three are the most famous: the cordyceps, lion mane, and turkey tail. These are like the top three. If you can get that into your system at least once or twice a week, you are going to boost your immune system. You're going to boost your white blood cells, but most of all, it does give you focus and clarity for your mind. And if there's one thing I always want to share on every single episode that we do, is keep your heart, in a good place, but also
Right.
keep your mind clear and keep your mind positive and kind. And to do that, you can't have toxins inside of you. You can't
No.
drink the alcohol every day. You can't, take bad drugs every day. You can't drink or eat sugar every day. That's
Yeah.
not, so our mental health and our minds and our intuitions. And, we were talking about the environment today. This is all part of it, Raphael, what we
Totally
eat
is.
do.
Yeah.
I did have a list on the most, the World Economic Forum actually just brought out a list of foods. But, actually, we still have 2.5 minutes.
We do. We do. While you look up that list, next week we have Sarah Willoughby. She's going to be joining us, and it's going to be so much fun. So next week, November 8th, join us. We're going to have a special guest.
Yeah, we do. We have amazing guests coming up. I go forward into the dates, and I'm like, oh yes, that's that weekend, because with some episodes you're very excited to bring your own content, but with some episodes you feel like a child, because you get to ask the questions. You get inspired by things.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about that pictures that you have up there.
Yeah, well, I forgot to put it on before, so that was just going back to my personal fascination of the fungus and the worms, and the mushrooms. It's just because when you do an entire week of researching how much we are destroying our planet,
Mm.
Raphael, like it did really get to me. I
It
knew
opened
these
your
things
eyes.
before, but
Right.
as we just said, 59 minutes. That means, by 60 minutes, we would have sold 60, you know,
Million. Yeah. Wow.
million plastic bottles, single usage. So
Mm.
we planet, we can't take it anymore. Okay.
No. We,
Mm.
we have to we have to make a difference. Look, what do I have?
Yeah.
Right. I have thermo flask, something that is going to allow me to not use all these plastic bottles that are out there.
Mm.
How many plastic bottles? I drink a lot of water all day.
Mm.
If I bought plastic bottles, right? So buy one of these, people.
Mm.
right? Make sure you wash it too.
Yeah, I was
A lot
going
of people
by
don't.
two. I was going to say one you wash, one you use, one you wash, one you
No, but
use.
I actually have like 4 of these. But here's the thing: a lot of times, because you think it's just water, right? And you just keep pouring water, pour water, pour. You should smell it and go, "Whoa, what is that smell?" Because you use this in a day, and you keep pouring water into it. But next day, you should wash it before you do it again,
Mm.
because it's open in the air, so my cap is off, right? So it's just like anything else, pollutants are going to get in there. So keep your cover on, right?
Mm.
And just wash it. You'll be
Mm.
healthier.
And here in Australia, my God, do not have your bottles in the car because it gets so hot. So you have the plastic bottles in the water, like, and this happens a lot in Australia. I mean, you can't leave anything in the car. Okay, don't leave your children in the car. Don't leave your dogs
Definitely
in the
not.
car. Okay, just in general, I thought I'd add that one into it as well, not just your.
Maybe you can leave your partner in the car.
Yeah, depends. Yeah, that's right. Click.
Well, listen, we have to wrap it up. So, wow, what an episode. Thank you everybody for checking us out. Come back. We're on Spotify. We're everywhere. We're on
We're
YouTube,
growing. Yeah.
right? We are. And we totally missed this one, but we are also looking for sponsors. If you want to be a sponsor of the Seer Show, reach out to us. We would love to talk to you. But guess what? We are only looking for sponsors who are responsible with their actions,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want somebody who's going to come and kill our world and then say, yay, they're on sponsor. We don't want that. We want
No.
people who are going to be responsible, who want to live in a green planet, right?
Yeah. Well, people who have interesting contributions, you know, towards the planet. And we have every right because it goes both ways, you know. Of course, we're going to then work together with these companies and promoting them, but we're only going to do that if you have something really fascinating to share. We have morals and ethics.
We do.
We do.
We do. Celeste, have an amazing rest of your evening as I start my day. I'm going to go work out now.
Good.
Bye, everybody. Enjoy.
Ciao.
All right.